Greetings, good people. My name is Melissa. I use she, her pronouns, and I am located on the indigenous lands of the Lenape people, also known as Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You can find me on IG at the Conscious Tech Pivot and on more freedom-respecting social media tools like Mastodon at Melba Toast at mastodon.social. I am here to chat with you about freedom-respecting technologies and the spirit of education. I have a background in computer science, and I've been in technology for 20 plus years, and I've just recently found out and really started understanding free software and what role it plays in how it aligns with my values, and that it's even out there, and how we can use it in educational spaces. And so I'm here to share some of that with you, but it's really an egregious fault, I feel, of my education that I didn't know this as a technologist. So I'm here to share a little bit about my journey and how as an unschooling mom, as a farmer citizen, as someone who's building intentional communities, freedom respecting technology really aligns with me, and how I try to be a more conscious tech consumer. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, as well as some of the tools that I believe are out there that are alternatives to the popular proprietary corporate tools that I believe the self-directed education group, the homeschoolers, unschoolers like myself, will find beneficial. So this is going to be fun. Thanks for joining me, and let's get into how we can, use technology to spread the wealth, empower knowledge, versus, keeping it to the chosen few. So first, let's get into a little bit what I mean by free software. Some of you may know what that means, some of it may not, and also open source. So they're really very similar. So let me jump here. Open source and freedom software. When they say free software, they also use the word libre software, but it's actually not free as in cost. It's free as in freedom. So you have the freedom to view it and change the software, modify it, share it. So that's what they mean by free software. And open source is kind of used, I feel like, to marketing. So there's kind of a political difference between the two, really. But definitely something to look into if you are using technology in your educational journey, is these free and open source alternatives to some of the tools that are out there. And we'll talk a little bit about how and why that could be important. One of the reasons is that these other tools that you may be using that are free in cost, we actually then become the product that is being monetized, right? Our students, our children, ourselves, and the folks over at IEEE call that intellectual sharecropping, right? So as nothing, right, in life is free. And when we say freedom software, it also speaks to the fact that the people who are building this are, the importance of properly compensating people for their value contributions. So it's important to know that it's not free of cost. It does cost, but it also gives people more voice in the tool, so being able to make changes and not just get stuck on something because corporations decide to do something with the tool. You're stuck with the features or discontinue things. So definitely something to look in. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means in general and for our educational journey. So let me hop back here. Where I believe freedom respecting technologies align with me and my values as an unschooling mom. I unschooled my two boys, and this, again, the young folks are into technology. However, it's all been, what's marketed by the corporations that they're aware of. So I'm hoping to share this with them at a young age, which I didn't get, so I'm looking forward to that. And it's really gets to some of my core values around autonomy, informed consent, and just to me, the basic spirit of freedom and cooperation is in the proper spirit of education. And I believe free software really helps you kind of bottle that and work with that. So, digital autonomy we're talking about in this space, right? So data ownership, learners and stewards, you should all have the ability to create, save, transfer, destroy, right? Like, this data is ours. We should be able to do what we want with it, right? So when you're using freedom respecting tools, you can do that. And informed consent, right? Like being aware of what you're consenting to when we're using these apps and we accept their privacy or whatever options, right? We need to accept to use the tool. We use the word informed consent because some of the stuff that these documents they write are full of legal speak, so you can't really tell what you're consenting to, right? What they're doing with our data. So to me, that is unethical. And having autonomy and understanding what your data is being used for and having some ownership over it, to me, is also about security, right? So everyone should be able to understand their relationship with their online identity, and again, be able to protect it, right? And I believe that when we put our data in the hands of these corporations, we're giving that over. We're giving that ownership and that security over to them. So freedom software is also about decentralizing, structures, and somebody who's, moving away from institutional learning ways. This also aligned with, my values. And one of the most important is accessibility. Having free software, it is accessible to my understanding, and I believe is more accessible than some of these corporate tools that are, pay to play, things like that. Big internet technology is innovation, right? So the more many software applications, so many of them have free software in there. So there's even these corporations know how important it is that to get in on the free software where the innovation is happening, right? Because people can collaborate. It's real people investing in tools and building technology because they really enjoy it. And unfortunately, corporations, when you have something that's free, right? Everybody can take part in it, including these corporations that sometimes may not always have the best intentions. However, I really believe it is important that you understand how you can get to some of these tools. So we're going to get into a little bit about the platforms and how, when you're encouraged to share and modify and participate and bring this living, breathing tool, build it together as a community, that it really produces, better communication and encourages people to be critical thinking, and really it's transparency, and I feel like that's a really big for me. So let's talk a little bit more about that and why we say in open source, in technology, and how I believe that leads into really the open source, what I'm calling in the knowledge, right? So is it readily available, the knowledge, or is it only giving to certain people? Is it behind barriers? Are there barriers there, right? So in my opinion, big tech is not striving to make knowledge open and readily available, right? Because it's proprietary software that they have. So a little bit about that, right? Proprietary software is a type of software that can only be modified, distributed, redistributed, copyrighted by the publisher or the vendor, right? So it's limited to the owner or the creator who really has access to that, right? So it's usually commercial software where the core is kept, secret by the developers, and the user has to pay, a license fee to rights to use the software, right? And the source code is not available, so you really don't know what you're using, and is it doing what they say they're doing with our data, for instance, right? So to me, that's concerning, right? I believe my personal info is power, and these corporations do too, right? So I'm fueling these machines with all my good information and all this knowledge and wisdom that we're putting out there online. So it's important to see that how they can, as my mentor, not to be complacent in the use and how they are misusing our data, so there's a lot of concerning things out there, and I'm not going to get into too much of that because that could be a whole nother spiel. But basically, with big tech's record of misuse of power and the abuses of the laws, this culture that they pay their way out of, these lawsuits, I personally feel like they're not worthy of my data and my resources and my energy. So I just don't believe they deserve it, And one of person that I'm coming to know through their books recently is Alice Walker, and I was reading We Are the Ones That We've Been Waiting For, and she talks about, interestingly, knowledge kept secret ceases to be knowledge. It becomes dogma and superstitions. Knowledge actually requires sharing in order to exist. And I was like, oh my goodness, yes, this is what freedom software is about, sharing, right? The knowledge, it's out there, everybody can access it. It's not being, there's no barriers to it. So good stuff by Alice Walker there. So this brings us to our opportunity to decolonize our tech. And really, what does that mean when I say that? So I'll share a little bit from Richard Stallman. He is one of the champions of freedom software. And he talks about, I felt like this related to my folks, in the education lane, and why we are using, technology that may not necessarily align with our values and goals. So he says schools say that they teach students how to use Microsoft products, or it could be Apple or Google, because that's what the companies use. And the companies say they're using Microsoft because students learn their usage in school, right? So, right, your schools get Chromebooks or Macs or whatever, right? So you're kind of just shooed into this ecosystem of technology without really understanding that there's so much more out there. So he says both parties blame the other and get locked together, right? So you're like in their ecosystem and they got you. So I really feel them on that, And it goes to, I feel like, the decolonizing of our education, right? That how so many areas they don't teach the true, cultural relevant info. And I see this around technology as well now, right? The history of technology and free software is not part of the technology journey, and it should be a big part, in my opinion. The contributions that free software has made to technology advances, right? So, and how it's rewarding that, this transparency, can be more cost efficient. The freedom to choose tools that fit your needs. Like they don't tell you. They just, here, this is what you're using. As my one of the folks I follow at C4 talked about how the technology bros in Silicon Valley, are raining down their technology, and we've just got to accept what it is, and it's not true. There's the control of technology is really in the hands of everybody, not just a small group, right? That they've kind of made it out to be. So this is the opportunity I'm offering you to divest from systems. They may be familiar and comfortable, so maybe a little challenging, but you get the opportunity to learn new ways of doing things. You may give up some of your conveniences of being in an ecosystem. I understand the benefits of that, but you're also getting the opportunity to take responsibility and steward your, digital presence, And to me, that's important for our learners to understand too. So there's a few more things I want to get into around the tools that I believe you all should know about, and that will help your learners and you on your journey in around technology. So as I was saying, there's some that that I use. There's many out there. I'm just going to share a few. One is NextCloud, which is like storage, collaborative space where you can have all your documents, spreadsheets, presentations. I'll show you guys a little bit about how it all works, but it's like an alternative to Google Drive, Google Docs, even Google Class, right? And then another one that I use, that I'm actually on right now doing this presentation, is called Big Blue Button. It's an alternative to like Zoom, right? So a conference tool. There's another one, Jitsi, that I've also used. And I'll show you guys a little bit of these. There is one that I feel is big, and some of you may know this because you're in the learning community, Canvas. So that is a secure alternative learning management system that I recently found out about. So that's a pretty big deal. So I'll share a little bit about that. And then shared spaces to kind of communicate and collaborate and connect, kind of alternatives to like Skype and Slack, are some called Mattermost and Zulip. And so these are just a few that I'm aware of, and it really keeps, I feel like these tools, as I was saying, align because they give us the ability to build through engagement around digital tech and media, and I also believe they keep our learners safer using these type of digital tools. And of course, there's they integrate amongst each other, so you get a lot of benefits and collaborative aspect, and curate and share content. So you've got a lot of opportunities with these tools. They carry value that I believe is really important because it supports, like I was saying, the true spirit of education, I believe. So I feel like you can reach out to your local neighborhood friendly tech cooperatives and talk to these real people that are hosting these tools and check their privacy policies, right? To see if they are really more ethical. Because I believe a privacy policy should be really simple, right? Like, we're not sharing your stuff. Some of these, policies these corporations have is really convoluted and really don't understand. So I believe that's not what we're looking for. Instead, right, if you can get the tools that you need to help your educational journey, and you can get them from people who are striving to use technology in a manner that benefits all, right? I feel like it's a win-win situation, right? So you're going to be able to take more responsibility for yourself and your learners and how they consume technology, right? So let me share my screen and show you a little bit about what we're using. Okay, I am sharing my screen. So the first one I'm going to share is called NextCloud. So this is the dashboard I was telling you. This is the collaborative tool that you can do all your storage. So you'll see I have different files here. There's a file management system. There's a calendar. So I'll show you a little bit what that looks like. And it has, you know, spreadsheets. You can it integrates with different tools to edit and modify the different file types that you may use. You'll see it just has a standard file structure. So you'll see I can share my folders with other folks who accounts that I've created on this this application, which is hosted by a tech co-op, mayfirst.org, who I believe strives to be more ethical in the way they move with technology. So I'm using this tool that they host. It also has, you know, other things like you can store your photos, you can see the activity that's going on in the account, you can add contacts, and then there's circles, which is kind of like groups in Google. And this really gives you a means of creating different type of circles and sharing, you know, documents or folders to those groups, or, you know, creating, there's tasks. There's surveys, which is called forms in here, so it's like surveys. And, you know, you can send out meeting invites. So it's got all, I believe, that I need. I have different calendars, right? I can show, I can connect it with other people, share other calendars to mine, import them. And yeah, this to me is a great alternative to some of the corporate tools out there. So the other one I was talking to you about is Community Bridge. It's really Big Blue Button, but it's hosting again by a group, communitybridge.com, who I believe is striving to use technology more ethically in their hosting and like using more greener technologies. And so this tool is an alternative to like Zoom. So you'll see you can, I'm going to join a room. It's web-based, and it'll give you the option to join your audio with your microphone, or if you just want to listen only. I'm going to do just listen only since I'm already in another room on here. And you'll see that it has chat. It has, you can see the users. You have your audio settings down here on the bottom. You can share your webcam, which I was doing, and share my screen, which I showed you, and I was running a presentation. But it was built honestly for learners, right? So it was built for the educational space, for teachers to do online courses and have their students, and it also be a collaborative space. So you'll see on the right, there's these tools that we can use that kind of create a whiteboard. And so you can take different tools and you know, create things, and you could have your team working on a board all together. So it's pretty full featured in my opinion. It's got so much good stuff, breakout rooms. It's got all the analytics that you would need as an admin to see different things about how your room is being used. You know, you have polls, and you know, you can watch videos on here. We do little movie nights. So it's got all the features I believe that you need on your learning journey, and you can find it again hosted by your local tech co-op. Another one that I want to get into is Canvas, which is a learning management system. It's here it's hosted by Instructure, and it is a really this is a really big, I believe, product, right? It is a learning management system, right? So it's a huge. You can create a very big catalog. and also processes of enrollments and registrations, and keep all your students and your teacher faculty on there. It's available. They have options for K through 12 and higher ed. It uses surveys and quizzes, so you can also enable those and do assessments, and all the different types of content that you may need: videos, tutorials, documents, images, right? You can have very rich content in your online programs, right? So this is for folks who are striving to put out online courses and have, build classes and modules and things of that nature. So this is a really full-fledged learning management system, again, with the analytics, so you can get reports and such on what's going on out there. So that is a big one to check out. And then lastly, I wanted to show you the kind of Slack Skype alternative, right? So it has the swim lanes that I just showed you, but it also has the different groups, right, that you can set up, and then you can have your channels, right, your different topics, and of course you can do direct message. It also has kind of a Kanban board, task list, project management built in. So all these tools are out there, and I'm using one hosted by IEEE's open source group, and they have a whole platform actually with a bunch of these tools all in one place. So if you have questions about this, as I said, you can reach out to me on IG. I'm going to be at the conference, so catch me online, or if you're on Mastodon, check me on mastodon.social. I really appreciate you taking the time to take this journey with me to learn a little bit about freedom, respecting technology, and how we can be more ethical and more conscious tech users. Thank you for your time. Take care and be well.